Hello people of the world, welcome back to my YouTube channel, or welcome if you're here for the first time. My name is Missam and today I'm going to talk about The Savior's Champion. You can check out my last book review, which was a book review of Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. I've linked it in the description down below. The Savior's Champion, it is an adult fantasy romance which is written by Jenna Moreci, who is a fellow YouTuber, and I'm a huge fan of Jenna. Her writing videos are amazing and I was really looking forward to reading this book. So let's jump right in. First I'm going to do a non-spoiler section, then a spoiler section, and finally I'm going to do writing lessons as usual. So is the book good? The answer is yes, it's actually pretty good. But first I'm going to talk about the negatives and then I'm going to talk about the positives. There were a few negatives. Was it enough for me to stop reading the book? Absolutely not, but there were a few things which I think I want to talk about so that you know what you're getting into in case you want to pick this book up. The story follows our protagonist named Tobias. He lives in the kingdom of Tessin. Tessin is ruled by the one true savior, the goddess-like figure, and the queen. Basically at some point of time, Tessin was in ruins and then a savior was born, and she was this beautiful glowing lady who purified the land, and the crops came out well, the diseases healed, blah blah blah. She's the goddess and she was worshipped, and then she also became the ruler of the realm, and now every savior, she had a daughter, the daughter. The story is about the current savior. Tobias enrolls in this tournament where he has to win the hand of the savior. The first issue with the book was its length. Now I understand that it's an adult fantasy romance book, but it was a bit too long, just like a tiny bit too long. I think the book could, a lot of scenes could have been cut out, and a lot of scenes could have been mixed, and we would still effectively get the same result. There were a few scenes that went a bit too slow. I won't say slow, none of the scenes were slow. Every scene in itself was placed pretty well, but some of them I just thought, we've done this 1,000 times before. I mean, when is the story gonna move on? Because the story doesn't move fast enough, we get introduced to a ton of these characters, and then their characterization comes too late. If I was not such a huge Jenna Moreci fan, if I did not love her so much, there could be a good chance that I would not read beyond the point, because I personally love reading about characters. So of course we have Tobias, we also have a bit of characterization of his family, but that isn't enough for me to get hooked onto a book. I need more characters. I need to learn about their depth, and there aren't, at least in the first part of the book, there isn't enough depth to the characters. So if I did not have faith in Jenna, and if I was just going in blind, there is a strong chance that I would not read the book. Characters, there were a lot of them and I did not care for most of them. I did care for Tobias, I cared about his family, I cared about the love interest, and I cared about exactly 3 other characters. There are just so many characters in there, and there are so many scenes that don't need to be there. So many characters are named and we don't really need their names. So in the tournament, everybody has their laurels, which is a name given to them in addition to their actual name. So Tobias, his real name is Tobias, but in the tournament he is known as the artist. A lot of characters were named when they did not have to be named, and since every character had 2 names, there was a lot to keep track of, which is fine. It's just that there were a lot of characters and we did not need so much information. I know that a lot of people liked the members of the Savior's court, namely Delphi, Pippa, and Layla. I really liked Layla. I found Delphi alright. I really liked her dynamic with the rest of the characters, but not enough for me to really like her as a character. And I know Pippa was supposed to be this cinnamon roll, adorable, and she was just that. She wasn't somebody I would actively cling on to. Again, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of these characterizations come too late, too little too late. Not too little, some of them are actually brilliant. There are some characters who I really liked. The book tries to be both a fantasy and a romance. I guess that is the biggest problem that it has. It works to its advantage in the way readers of both genres are gonna love this book. I love fantasy and I like romantic subplots, and the fact that romance took a huge chunk of this book, I don't mind it. I'm okay with it. But because it tried to be both at the same time, that probably explains why the book is so long. The first 10 chapters are almost purely fantasy action adventure, and then the romance starts picking up, but again, that happens too late. 10 huge chapters pass by before we even start we do start talking about the romance. Like, the elements are introduced, but nothing concrete happens. So that's the bad stuff. Let's talk about the good stuff, because I assure you there are plenty. As I told you, I love Jenna. I love her writing advice. The fact that I spoke about bad stuff does not mean that I like her any less. I am definitely going to read The Savior Sister. I definitely like the book a lot. I am not dissing on her. I just think that she's an adult who can take some level of criticism. Anyway, moving on. The good stuff. The first thing that struck me was the writing. Oh my god. The writing was so beautiful. It was not purple prose. It was not anything excessive. It's not like you have to be extremely intellectual to understand what she's writing, but it was so impactful. I loved the prologue. I know that a lot of people would not like the prologue because I've heard people complain that it's so graphic. I mean, yes, she has given you content warnings. It is gonna be graphic. She's mentioned violence and gore. You're supposed to know this. Every single line in this story has been very carefully crafted, and I think I'm gonna go back and read the book just to get a good sense of how, about the craft of writing, how to write. Jenna has done a beautiful job. It is such a good book in terms of writing, which is the reason why, even though it was a long book, it still managed to keep my interest, because the prose was so good. It was so good. Number 2, characterizations. I know that this came in my negative point, but it's also my positive point. There were some amazing characters. I can name 4. Funny that Tobias is not on that list of 4, and I will talk about it in the spoiler section. So number 1 is Layla. No competition. I love Layla. I love her, and I love the author for writing such a beautiful female character, such a wonderful role model. Every time Layla would do something badass, I would just be like, Flynn. I know that most of you like to say F Flynn. I don't know if I want to start cursing on my channel just yet. So yeah, a lot of you like to say F Flynn, and yes, definitely F Flynn, but the fact that you feel so strongly about Flynn just says that he was a wonderfully written character. He had a lot of depth. He's one of those characters, again, really late. We get his characterization really late, but when it comes, it hits. I loved his entire arc. I loved everything that happened with his character. I am here for it. Raphael. Actually, I'm torn between Orion and Raphael, but I would say Raphael because he was more complex as a character. Orion was a sweetheart, but Raphael was complex, and therefore I love complex characters. I love that gray area characters a lot, which is why I like Flynn so much. I know that he was not the best guy there is, but I liked him. And I loved Orion. I loved Orion. I'm not gonna say anything, but I just loved him. Good point number 3, Tobias' relationship with Naomi. Naomi is his sister. She is disabled. She was in an accident because of which she has chronic pain, and she is also paralyzed from waist down. Even though she was there for such a short period of time, I really felt for her. The romance. I am a sucker for romantic subplots. I usually don't like reading books if they don't have romantic subplots. This book had a romantic plot next to a fantasy plot, which is a problem, but I love the romance. It's not a problem. It's just that it was long. That is all. That is my only complaint with it. There were some parts that could be cut out. Every time the two love interests were in the room together, my heart would soar because they're so cute and they're so supportive, and even when they have any issues between them, I know that they're gonna be alright because they're so cute and they're so supportive. There is no level of toxicity in their romance. I know that a lot of people get pissed because Layla comes across as possessive, but I've also read the first 3 chapters of The Savior's Sister and I know why she's like that. So I think that's all I have for the non-spoiler section. Now let's jump into the spoilers section. Honestly, I could tell, I mean, I knew the twist from a mile away. Now, full disclosure, I knew the twist from before because I've just been following Jenna's channel for such a huge, long time. There is no way I would not know spoilers, but I knew the main event that was happening. I knew about Layla, and I tried to still keep like a clear head. I tried to see, can a person who does not know these spoilers, can they guess? Yes, they very much can. It is written right here. The only problem is with Tobias and the fact that he doesn't figure it out. I get it, he is thinking a lot with his emotion, and that's okay. He's allowed to think, he's allowed to be emotional, he's allowed to live in denial, but the thing is, he wasn't. He just did not understand, he just did not realize something that was so apparent, which is a problem because Tobias is supposed to be somebody who is good with riddles. He's supposed to be smart. So where is your intellect now, Tobias? He was just too much of a goody two shoes, which is why I liked his character. Don't get me wrong, I liked him. I was invested in him just enough. It's just that he would not make it to my favorite character list because there were other characters who were much more interesting than he was, including his love interest Layla, the one true savior. I love you, Layla. When you killed, I think his name was Neil, yes, for sexual harassment, I loved you then, Layla. When you stabbed Antaeus in the foot, I loved you, Layla. Where is this voice coming from? Just love Layla a lot. She is perfect. She is a role model all girls deserve. All women deserve. Good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. I loved Orion. I cried a little bit when he died. I knew I would. I knew that he would die, and I knew that I would cry when that happens. Orion was such a wonderfully written character. He was the real sweetheart, arguably. Something that I forgot to mention, I really liked the way Tobias's character is established in the first chapter. I mean, with so little telling, in fact there was no telling at all involved. We got to know that Tobias is an honorable man. He works hard, he works for a purpose. Basically the first chapter is pretty good. The other men of the tournament, I did not really care for any of them. Kaleo just sounded like a huge bully. One of my issues with the book, the bad characters, like the mean characters. First of all the bad guys were the bad guys. There was only one twist in the book, which was the Layla twist, and I was hoping for a bit more like depth from the villains, but I was left wanting more. Most of the men were really crass, and I don't know if that's how men really talk. Do they? I mean, some of them do. And so the first half of the book I was really confused when all the men were being so crass and so weird. I was like, are all of them the same? I'm pretty sure some of them might have some depth to it, and then of course we got the characters with depth. My microphone just fell off. Let's get to Flynn. I know that a lot of you hate Flynn for good measure. I personally think that he was probably the most complex character of the lot. He starts off as competition, becomes friend, ally, becomes friend, then he's Tobias and Flynn start drifting away. I liked it. I really liked his character. I know that he was an ass, but I enjoyed reading about the ass. I really respected Raphael's character. The rest of the people at the tournament really did not matter. I just wish that I cared for the villains a lot more, because for me they were just big baddie number 1, big baddie number 2, big baddie number 3, and big baddie number 4. And that was a bit of a one-dimensional take on the villains. In my notes, I have described Kaleo as a big, drawling, beefy, ruthless Draco Malfoy. So yeah, that's that. I loved the tournament. I loved some of the challenges, especially the poison one. Oh my god, I was really at the edge of my seat during the poison one. The fights were really well written. So well written. Especially the one Tobias versus Antaeus. I thought that why isn't he just killing him, but I realized that I'm a sucker for it anyway. I like the fact that he took his time, provided a lot of entertainment for the audience of the tournament and also for me. I love the fact that Tobias saved all these guys. Again, a pretty one-dimensional reason to save them. I'm saving them because I'm the protagonist and I am a goody two-shoes character. But still, I liked it. I like the fact that I was glad that I'm vouching for a protagonist who's a good guy. Okay, this is something that I love about Tobias. He pays a lot of attention to people. He wants to know their name. He wants to know who they are, because a running theme throughout the book is how people are dehumanized basically by being referred to by their titles and not their actual names. So everybody is referring to Cosima as the savior, and he's the first person to actually ask her name. And everybody refers to Tobias as the artist, and everybody by their laurels, and a lot of people call Layla the healer. So it talks about how we tend to dehumanize people for the sake of entertainment. Also, people were placing bets on the final contenders, and I think this theme was really well done. Our whole thirst for glamorization and entertainment, and in the process how we often dehumanize the people who are taking part in these competitions. I think for the most part in the second half, the adventure and the romance elements were balanced pretty well. I just wish that they were balanced so well during the entire book and not the second half of the book. A lot of the characters were well written. There was this part where this one guy, Caesar, kills Xander because he thinks that the savior favored him, and that really brought the depth that I was looking for in the tournament. I just could not believe that it was so bland and people were either killing because they were mean or because people were just dying because of the tournament. This was the first time when a guy went like, you know what, I have to kill this guy because I think that the savior is favoring him, and it brought a lot of nuance to his character. I liked these scenes. I think that is all I have to say about the Savior's Champion, and now let us talk about the writing lessons. Number 1, the writing. Jenna's book it's a perfect case study when you want to learn how to set scenes, how to pace individual scenes, how to develop characters, because the development when it came, it was so hard-hitting, it was perfect. Of diversity, including diversity. Tessin felt like a huge place, the world of the Savior's Champions felt like a huge place because of how diverse the cast was. A lot of people I know have complained about less world building. I could see that too, but it's okay. First of all, Tobias is supposed to be from a village. He hasn't seen a lot of the world outside of his village or outside of Tessin. And secondly, most of the action, most of the story the entire story takes place inside the Palace of Tessin. So I'm pretty sure in the next few books we will get a lot more world building. That wasn't a huge deal for me. I know that it's difficult to fit so much of world building into one book. I know, and I'm looking forward to more. Jenna has written a wonderful romance, and if you want to learn how to write a good romantic subplot or a good romantic story, this is a book that you should definitely put on your to-be-read list. Action and tension. Oh my god. The tension in most scenes was amazing. Like, where the tension had to be there, the tension was there. Even romantic and like sexual tension was there when it needed to be there. She knows her craft, and in order to understand the craft better, this book is good. It's good in so many places. Yes, it left me wanting more, or perhaps my expectations were just way too high because I like Jenna so much. Either way, I would definitely recommend this book to you, especially if you like fantasy, and especially if you like romance. If you're a pure fantasy writer, you may not like the book. It's not a book. I know a lot of high fantasy writers who have not liked the book. So if you are like that, I won't say don't read it, but I'm gonna say go in with an open mind. That's all I got for you today. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button somewhere down there, and follow me on Twitter. I'm gonna link it down below. I have a giveaway happening on Twitter, which is actually linked to my YouTube channel. Also, I'm gonna link Jenna's channel down below because she puts out some great content. She knows what she's doing. Bye.